Hi guys, this is gsmdown.com and I'm here with a handset called Wiko Rainbow. Wiko is a French brand, it has a Chinese mother company, and Wiko was founded back in 2011 in the city of Marseille in France. It's a youthful and affordable phone, this one, the Wiko Rainbow, and it comes from a series of colorful handsets for young people. So the Wiko Rainbow is priced at 150 euros in Europe, obviously, and it's a colorful phone launched this spring. The design brings the device in 7 colors including white, coral, purple, black, turquoise and yellow. The handset is made of plastic. It's not slippery, it has a pretty good grip, and it has an interchangeable back cover. The thickness is 9.3 millimeters and it weighs 167 grams, which is kind of much for a 5-inch handset. It sits well in the user's hand. However, it's kind of big considering it's a 5-incher, as you can see. Pretty massive, pretty big, and your finger cannot exactly reach all the areas of the screen. It's hard to use with one hand, as I just said. So at the front, what we get here is an earpiece, and hidden in the earpiece there's the notification LED. Inside this area here we have the front camera, we also have the sensors, and below the screen you can see the 3 capacitive buttons. At the back we find the main camera with the LED flash, the logo, and at the bottom we find the speaker, and we can also remove the cover. It can be done pretty easy in my book. It's a wraparound shell, pretty much like the ones from the Lumia series, the one that detach. This is the wraparound shell that's replaceable. You can see here the 2 SIM slots, the microSD card slot, and the battery. Okay, that's it. Let's get back to the size of the device and put the handset back in its shell. Okay, so the Wiko Rainbow has at the top the audio jack and microSD port, while at the bottom we find the microphone, and that's about it. On the right side, on-off button, on the left side, volume buttons, all of them with good feedback. Overall, I'd say that the design of the handset is solid, but it's bulky, and at least we got those colors going for it, if you like beautiful and colorful phones. So solid design, but massive, bulky, but at least it's colorful. On the hardware side, what we get here is a 5-inch IPS screen with a resolution of 1280 over 720 pixels. The screen offers 16 million colors, and inside the phone we find the quad-core Cortex A7 CPU clocked at 1.3 GHz. This one is a MediaTek MT6582, just in case you were wondering. The GPU is a Mali 400MP, and as far as the RAM goes, we have 1 GB of RAM available on the device, as well as 4 GB of ROM, as well as the microSD card slot I mentioned earlier, hosting up to 32 GB. On the camera front, 8 megapixel shooter here, and 2 megapixel shooter at the front right here. Now let's see the other specs. So on the connectivity side we got dual SIM slots, Wi-Fi Direct, DLNA, Bluetooth 4.0, HSDPA, and the download speed goes up to 21 MB per second. There's GPS, GLONASS, FM radio, and you should know that in the section I like to call others, we have accelerometer, proximity sensor, and brightness sensors, plus a compass. We also took screenshots of the battery usage, and speaking of battery, this one is a lithium polymer unit with a capacity of 2000 mAh. On paper it offers you up to 260 hours of standby functioning or up to 16 hours of talk time. In our test that involves looping HD video with Wi-Fi on and brightness of 50%, we achieved only 3 hours and 17 minutes, which is a bit disappointing. The charge time is pretty okay, I would say 1 hour and 50 minutes. There are no power saving features here, as far as I know. Even if you access the battery area in the settings, that's everything you get, plus no power saving app, so you have to deal with the 3 hours plus you get of HD video playback. I would say the battery is underwhelming, and now we move forward to the acoustics. So let's check out the music player first. This is it. At first sight it may look like a stock experience, and it's also slightly tweaked, as you'll see in a minute now. Let's find the albums we usually test the player with. Here we go. Now let's actually listen to some tunes. The speaker is here. Okay, you get the idea. That's a very nice looking area here that spins around the cover of the album. Let's see the options. You have party shuffle, add to playlist, uses ringtone and sound effects. And this area is pretty much the stock one, the stock equalizer, with a bunch of song settings, some custom channels, bass boost and 3D effect. So pretty much stock with slight customization. And as far as the sound is concerned, we have a loud volume, okay bass, clear sound, there is no muffling on a flat surface, as you'll hear immediately. So as I said, no muffling, and if there is one, it's very slight, it won't affect the music experience. The volume is actually pretty okay and the guitar is heard in a great way. I like the spinning disc in the player. And now let's see the headphones. Those are a bit of a letdown, if I can say that. They're basic headphones, they're not in-ear buds. They're quite big and quite uncomfy, at least for my ears. They also come with a big remote with a single button right here, where at least they're loud. They could be louder, and they have a clear sound and an okay bass, and their wire tends to tangle just a little bit. Okay, and now since we have the headphones, I'm going to plug them in and go to the FM radio area. Here we go, FM radio right here with features such as search, speaker or record FM, basic feature, FM radio. And now let's put the headphones aside and discuss the decibels a little bit. So we usually rely on a decibel meter in our reviews at gsm1.com, and here we go again, decibel meter at the back, pretty impressive, 87.1 decibels, decibel meter at front, 85.2 decibels. For the sake of comparison, for example, an iPhone 6 scores exactly the same, 85.2 decibels, which is a compliment for this model, and we scored 87 at the back. The LG G3 also scores 87, so I would say we're doing fine. We can also enhance the sound a bit by using audio profiles in the settings and BES audio enhancer, but only for the earphones. Now we're done with the acoustics, they're pretty good, and now we move on to the display. This one is a 5-inch IPS HD screen, 294p PI density, and the video player. Let's find it, and this is it, video player. I'm going to rely on the usual test sample, turn down the volume a bit, and let's check out the player's options. So first things first, there seems to be a sort of pop-up play mechanism here. You can also shrink the window, so that's cool. Okay, other options here, I'm guessing you can recrop the image, and that's about it. As far as the actual screen experience is concerned, we're dealing with a crisp image, clear image. I would say the contrast is good, and the viewing angles, as you can see for yourself, they're usual for an IPS, which is wide and good, both vertically and horizontally. They're not fantastic, as you can well see, but they're pretty wide, so you can see what's happening on the screen even at certain angles. Other stuff worth mentioning, well, the image is bright, the colors are accurate, there is no oversaturation going on here, and the pixels are of the RGB stripe kind. We also used a microscope and a lux meter to really get in depth with the image analysis, and this is the microscope showing us the RGB stripe pixels, and we had a bit of a surprise in the brightness area. The lux meter showed 424 lux units on white, which is very good considering the price tag of 150 euros. So we have 424 lux, while the Sony Xperia Z2 flagship has 366, the LG G3 has 343, and the LG G2 has 350, so we beat them all. Overall, this is a good display, and there isn't any objection I can bring to it. Now we're off to the 8 megapixel camera at the back with LED flash, BSI, and 4x digital zoom. I'm looking up the camera, here it is, using the usual castle, the brown castle. The interface is, I would say, pretty much stock, nothing fancy. It feels a bit old and a bit too simple. On the left side of the screen, we've got the front camera shortcut, we got the flash options right here, and we also have Cinemagraph and Object Eraser. Cinemagraph basically creates GIFs, Object Eraser erases people from shots. Then there is normal shot, HDR, panorama, scene detection and smile shot, and then there is the impressive area of the settings. I'd say impressive because there's quite a bit of them, and the interface here is decent, so to say. There's zero shutter delay, face detection, self timer, continuous shot with up to 99 shots, picture size 8 megapixel, 5 megapixel or less, preview size either full screen or 4:3, and ISO going up to 1600. That's about it. That's all you get in the photo section. We also have some special options in the video area, and let's check them out here. So we have electronic image stabilization, microphone, audio modes, which are normal and meeting, time-lapse interval, video quality that goes from high to high, medium and low, flash options and front camera, so that's pretty much it. On the right side of the screen we have the shutter button and a slider to alternate between photo and video. Okay, so let's actually take a picture of this castle. Not the fastest camera in the world, but also not the slowest. However, the focus is kind of slow, so if you activate the zero shutter delay, this will actually be felt in a very nice way. As you can see, the speed has increased a lot, and the quality may have suffered because of the high speed, but let's see one of the shots. I would say that although the image is noisy, if you really have time to focus on it, you can see that the level of detail is quite good for an 8 megapixel camera on a budget phone. So this is the shot I just took. I would say it's decent. Okay, put aside the castle for now, and I'm going to access the gallery. We took a bunch of shots in a park during daylight. We have a lot of them actually. So let's check them out. Okay, we also have an HDR or two. Regular shot, HDR shot. HDR tends to exaggerate a bit if you ask me. And another attempt at HDR, regular shot, HDR shot. It exaggerates with the brightness only a little bit. We also have a panorama here. By the way, very nice red here, very nice nuance, and it's actually realistic. That's how the tree looked like. Good panorama, good stitching, no artifacts. We have a decent level of details, also a good flash, as you'll see in a minute now. We have a bunch of indoor shots that really highlight the power of the flash. Picture with flash, picture with flash, picture with flash. Good details. This is a pair of headphones, and you can actually see the plastic and the rubber on the headphones, plus some cookies. So I would say that the flash is good, and now you can actually see the level of detail checking out these Halloween pumpkins. It's actually pretty good for an 8 megapixel shooter. Most of the shots during daylight were taken at sunset, so that's a good excuse for how dark they are. The images are crisp, colors are good, slight darkness here, but good colors. I would say the colors are very good, considering it's an 8 megapixel camera on a budget phone. Slightly dark in low light conditions, it's sunset after all, so that excuses it. Overall, I would say that the experience is okay, as are the exposure, brightness and saturation of shots. Now, as far as video is concerned, while the photos made me quite happy, I would have to report that the videos weren't as impressive. First of all, they're coded in 3GP, which is by far not my favorite format. I like MP4 if you ask me. So here we go. Video sample number 1. What I noticed in this video sample is that the sound tends to be quite good. We actually recorded all sorts of songs by mistake, and you can clearly hear people's voices and the songs with no problem, but will breach copyright if you let you listen to it. The image is reasonable here, not very crisp, the colors are cold, the focus is okay, but nothing more than that. Once again, disappointed by the fact that you only get 3GP. I would have liked MP4 on this device. The brightness is okay for a sunset scene, the colors are cold as I said, the focus is okay, and what I like about this filming, one of the few things I like about the filming, is that it doesn't brutally change the exposure as some handsets do nowadays. Overall, I would call this camera okay for the price, not fantastic, just okay. I like the photo taking more than the video taking, but I guess we'll live with that. It's a good enough camera for creating shots to post on Facebook, and I leave it at that because it's a youthful phone after all, and that's its purpose, take Facebook pictures. Okay, now let's go to the gallery and discuss some more about the performance and things like that. So we played the game on the device for 15 minutes, Riptide Gp2 with 3D graphics, we made the device a bit hot at 44.1 degrees Celsius. It gets only a bit hot but not overheating, so that's okay. Now we go to the browser area. We're dealing with the stock browser here, nothing fancy, and let's actually access gsndome.com. Here we go. Load it instantly, so we have a fast browser. And now let's discuss the keyboard. We're dealing with the touchpad solution here that includes a bunch of settings, input methods, alternative input methods, one-handed layout, correct mistypings, word prediction. You can even get new skins, messages. It has its own store, and obviously you can move around from letter to letter. I just said help instead of hello. Here it is, hello. Now let's try to write phone. Very fast, very intuitive, and very comfy keyboard. So we're happy with the browser, we're happy with the input, and now let's check out the phone area. We're dealing with a dual SIM phone with good signal and good voice clarity, as well as a crisp phone calling, so no problems here. Now we cannot leave aside the benchmarks that are crucial on every model if you want to compare it to other handsets we've tested. So here we go. You're probably wondering what devices I chose to compare the Wiko Rainbow to. So first of all, Motorola Moto G Generation 1, HTC Desire 310 and the AllView P5 Quad. I have to say that the prices of these four devices are pretty close, and all four of them use Cortex A7 processors. 3 of them rely on MediaTek processor and 1 on a Snapdragon 400. So here we go. In Qualcomm, a pretty low score on the Wiko Rainbow, 5,760. We got beaten by the Moto G, the first generation, with 8,870 points, and we got beaten narrowly by the HTC Desire 310 with 5,968 points, while we beat the AllView P5 Quad with 3,934 points. In Antutu, a better score, 18,828. We beat all the other models. The Moto G first generation, 17,000 points. HTC Desire 310 also 17,000, and the AllView P5 Quad 13,000. And I said 13, not 30. Nano Mark II, 52.8 frames per second, got beaten by the first Moto G with 57 frames, and meanwhile the AllView P5 Quad scored 53.2 frames per second. Next up, there is Velamo with the HTML5 test, 2,236 points. We beat the Moto G and it's 1,950. We also beat the HTC Desire with a similar score, and we beat the AllView P5 Quad with 1,400. Next up, 3D Mark. We used both the unlimited test and the regular test. The score was pretty close, basically 2,900. Meanwhile, the Moto G has 5,426 and the HTC Desire 310, 3,138. Next up, let's see what else. We got Geekbench 3 here. In the single core test, 351, multi-core 1159. A pretty close score for Moto G, 342 versus 1,148. HTC Desire 310 scored 354 and 1182 here. Next up, GFX. We recorded an error here, as you can see. We tried it more times, didn't help. Meanwhile, the Moto G scores 5.7 frames per second, the HTC Desire 310 scores 4.2 frames per second, and I looked up on the web the results associated to the Wiko Rainbow, and it comes in at 4.2 frames per second. We also did a speed test, and we achieved 23 megapixel in download and 19 in upload, but we don't have comparison details for the other models, sadly. Browser mark a very low score, 573, while the Moto G has 2,245 and the AllView P5 Quad 867. Next up, there's Sam Spider. We scored 1376, which is huge, and here the lower the score, the better the result. Meanwhile, the Moto G first generation has 1494, so a worse score, and the HTC Desire 310 1277, so it did better than us. Overall, this model Wiko Rainbow wins about 3 or 4 out of the 10 tests. It didn't even run GFX, and I would say it's very close to its rivals, and in spite of the results, I would have to say that it can run 3D games easily. It doesn't lag in the interface, and let's actually check out a game to see how it handles it. For example, we can try Riptide Gp2. It has 3D graphics, it's reasonably demanding, and let's see how it's handled on the Wiko Rainbow. Once again, no lag in the user interface, and in spite of the benchmarks, you can run new games relatively new games. So here we go. This is Riptide Gp2 3D graphics, you know, the usual dynamic lighting, water effects and all the goodies. Looks decent, runs decent, no frames lost. Now let's see a stunt. Here we go. Backflip, and that should cover it. So 3D gaming, not a problem on the Wiko Rainbow. Let's shut some stuff down, and now let's start discussing the OS and UI on this device. So first things first, we're running Android 4.2.2 here, pretty much a stock experience with the odd change here and there. We got pretty much the basic widgets, nothing fancy, some minor widgets that are contributed by the various apps installed. For multitasking you keep the home button pressed and then you swipe around to close them. And next up we got the drop down area where you can see both the notifications and the quick settings. We got airplane mode, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, data connection, audio profile, brightness, that by the way is only now reaching its maximum level, just in case you were wondering. So this is the maximum brightness level. I don't know if it's more impressive or not. Okay, next up we got the settings area where there's actually an interesting option. Here we go. And that interesting option is called Smart Gesture. We have a collection of gestures here that are more easily described by these small animations. You can slide over the screen and the sensors to unlock the screen when the screen lock mode is slide. You can also turn the device over to mute. You know the usual, you can take the phone to your ear to answer calls. Also, if you're in a contact section, you can start calling it if you're in its details. And we also have a proximity camera snap. So these are the gestures available on this device. All of them are shown in the tutorial and they're pretty intuitive. Plus some of them are already known from, let's say, Samsung devices. Okay, and now we have the apps list, pre-installed applications on this device. There's not much bloater, that's okay. We have backup and restore. We got a calendar, got a calculator, Chrome is here, we got a clock, obviously, Google Drive, we got email, we got a file manager. That looks pretty okay. And we got an FM radio, gallery, Gmail, Google+, Hangouts, Google Maps is also here. It was pretty fast to locate us, even when at first didn't find the GPS, eventually it did, and everything moved okay. Further, we had the messaging, movie studio, music, news and weather, with an associated good looking widget. Then the notebook, allowing you to take notes really fast. Categorize them if you want to. And next up we got the OOBE, which is basically an initial setup of your device. Then people and phone, photos, play suite, play books, play games, play music, play store, quick start guide, settings, SIM toolkit, sound recorder, a to-do list, that's another basic app that people already know, the touchpad keyboard with its skins and all the goodies you can get from the web. Then we have Trust Go, which is basically your security solution, your antivirus. You got a security scanner, system manager, privacy guard, data backup, and a secure web browsing option, as well as device protection and an app manager to keep everything clean. Then we have the video player, wireless input device, and YouTube, and that's about it. Now it's time for the end of the review. This is the Wiko Rainbow, a colorful phone for the youngsters, and it's time to check out the pros and cons of the device. So the pros, obviously, the very good price, 150 euros, the youthful design, colorful, removable and replaceable case. We got an okay acoustics, we got a good display, the camera is also okay, especially the photo taking. The photo taking is actually pretty impressive, and the phone has good hardware considering the price. It can run new games and even 3D games. However, we also have a cons section, and on the cons side we find the device to be massive, heavy and bulky. It also has a pretty poor battery, a bit over 3 hours of video playback, and it gets a bit hot in the back area, and it has a pretty old Android. It's not even KitKat, but if it gets updated, that problem is solved. So I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10 for its design, 8.8 out of 10 for its hardware and a 9 out of 10 for the operating system and user interface, for a final grade of 8.76 out of 10 right here at gsm1.com. And if it gets KitKat and the price stays this low, it may even deserve a 9. Till then, 8.76 out of 10. It's a very good phone for students, if you ask me. Colorful, good camera, you can use Facebook, play games. There's nothing more you need. 150 euros and 8.76 from us. Bye bye.